It's time for Windows Weekly. Leo Laporte is out, and I, Micah Sargent, am here joining Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley to talk about Windows virtualization, as well as so many patches. I just learned what Patch Tuesday is. I know, I was way behind. As well as Bill Nye maybe cheating on Microsoft. We'll see. And the last of the Cortana devices. Stay tuned. All that and more coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is Windows Weekly with Paul Thurrott and Mary Jo Foley. Episode 634, recorded Wednesday, August 14th, 2019. What's Patch Tuesday? This episode of Windows Weekly is brought to you by Expressvpn. Protect your online privacy with one click. Yes, it's that easy. For 3 extra months free with a 1-year package, go to expressvpn.com/windows. It's time for Windows Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from up there, over there, around there in Redmond, Washington. We, of course, have Mary Jo Foley of ZDNet and allaboutmicrosoft.com here to talk about Windows this week. That's why the show's called that. Hello, Mary Jo Foley.
Hello, how are you?
I am doing well. I'm so excited. This is my first Windows Weekly. And, you know, I was for many years a big Windows user, and I am no longer a big Windows user, but I'm excited to hear a little bit today about what's going on in the world of
but
Windows.
Not too much.
Well, you know, as much as our show will allow us. That's exactly how much.
That's perfect.
We are also joined by Paul Thurrott of Thurrott.com and leanpub.com. Good afternoon, Paul.
Good afternoon. I think we need to hear about you, though.
You do. I think our
Will be
audience
unfamiliar
needs
to many of our viewers and listeners,
Yes.
I would imagine.
Hello. So my name's Micah Sargent. I recently joined, about 2 weeks ago, the Twit Network. And you can catch me with Leo on iOS Today, as well as a triangulation this Friday, and Tech News Weekly with Jason Howell on Thursdays. So I do mostly cover, iOS, main tech news. And today we're covering Windows, and I'm excited about it.
Well, like I said earlier, that will pass.
We'll see. It's
You've
a
got
challenge.
2 jaded veterans of covering Windows here.
Jaded. Okay. That's the energy we're going in with today.
No, we're going to be positive and upbeat. At least one of us is.
Ooh.
Yikes.
So I get to discover who is who here, don't I? That's
Eeyore. Who's Eeyore and who's Winnie the Pooh? Yes.
oh my God. What does that make me? Christopher Robin?
Yes.
I love it. Well, Christopher Robin wants to know about Windows Virtual Desktop.
Yeah, let's start off with a very geeky, nerdy topic, but one that's going to be super important very soon. So if you know what Windows virtualization is right now, it's a big mess, pretty much.
Okay.
There's all these different ways you can do it, and mostly ways you cannot legally do it. But Microsoft is just about to launch this new service called Windows Virtual Desktop. This week, Scott Manchester, who is group manager for the service, tweeted, "We are now feature complete," which means the next step is GA, general availability. My contacts have said before the end of September, it should be generally available, which is great because it's been about a year since Microsoft first officially talked about this. So Windows Virtual Desktop, it lets you virtualize Windows 7, Windows 10, Office 365 Pro Plus apps, and third-party software by running them inside of virtual machines on Azure. That's it in a nutshell. It also has multi-user Windows 10 support, so that you can have multiple Windows 10 sessions in a single VM. So it does a lot of different things. Partners are so excited about this thing because they think they can sell the heck out of it. And customers who've been kind of scrambling to figure out virtualization in Windows are also very intrigued. So if you're one of those people, you should be testing this right now. There's a public preview. Microsoft wants your feedback before they say it's ready. And you can run it in pilots right now and feel pretty good about it since it's feature complete.
Can you explain a little bit more? You said it's a mess. That's an interesting word. I usually just use that to describe like my bedroom. So what makes this virtualization a mess right now, and kind of what are we looking forward to when with what allegedly is a feature complete thing? Because now I'm kind of curious too. Are you kind of giving a little bit of side eye there? Like, is it feature complete? Is it ready? If it's a mess right now?
Oh no, when I mean a mess, I mean the way people have to virtualize Windows and Office right now is messy. But this, I think, will clean up the mess quite a bit.
Is it fair to say, is this basically the modern cloud-based version of what Microsoft used to call VDI? I think it was VDI. Virtual Desktop Infrastructure.
I would say that's an accurate characterization. And if you remember, what was the company who got in trouble with Microsoft for, I always forget their name, illegally virtualizing Windows desktops? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was OnLive, wasn't it? The gaming company?
OnLive. It was. Yeah.
Yeah, they were offering like a cloud-based desktop.
Yeah. But they weren't complying with the way you have to license it. Right. Like if you look at how right now you have to license Windows in order to virtualize it, it's very complex. And you have to have Windows Server, I believe, in the mix.
Well, it's expensive too. I think that was the issue. They weren't paying on a per user license. They were just letting people use the same virtualized instances over and over again.
Right, running off of their own data centers, which that's also a no. Right. So, so the way you do this now, it's quite complicated, and there've been a lot of switches in how Microsoft has intended for you to do it. Like at one point they had Citrix running this for them, and then they kind of took that away. And I would say right now people do obviously run Windows and Office virtually, but it's going to get a lot cleaner when this service is out. The thing is, we don't know how much this is going to cost yet because Microsoft hasn't disclosed pricing on it. But what they did say was you'll need to set up an Azure subscription and then choose the kind of virtual machine you'll want to run. But then I'm sure there'll be different caveats in terms of if you have like Microsoft 365 or if you have software assurance or other kinds of subscriptions, you'll probably get better rates, I would assume. And also, we don't know how much partners will charge because they're going to be the main, or at least a big channel for distributing this service.
Now, I want to ask what is potentially a stupid question here. As someone who isn't playing around with these virtual servers and virtualizing, you said Office even. Is the idea that I could then from a computer that maybe doesn't have a whole lot of processing power on it, log on to a cloud-based platform and then access all of the Windows or all of the Microsoft Office applications? What is the, this is exciting because
it's a desktop. You're getting a Windows 10 desktop, you're getting the Office applications and services. I was going to ask a related question because I assume when you think about what's the market here? Like what's the audience for this product? For one thing, Microsoft used to offer on-premises versions of this. I think that's what the VDI stuff was. Obviously, that's really expensive infrastructure. But the idea back then, I don't know if it was 15, 20 years ago, whenever it was that you could build out your infrastructure with servers and heavy clients, Windows desktops or laptops, or you could have thin clients and then virtualize everything and just blast it down from the network. But now it's happening over the cloud. So I assume, part of it is obviously the economics of cloud computing. You don't have to have all of the hardware you need to support all of your users all the time. You can kind of spin them up as needed. And so there's that aspect of it. I suppose it's contractors, temporary workers.
Right. First line workers. That's the group of people Microsoft talks about a lot, which is people who work in retail and healthcare who don't necessarily have a standard desktop that's dedicated to them, but they might need to access desktop applications, but not constantly and not on their own device necessarily. And that could be a big audience.
You could probably blast this to any device, right? It could go to a phone, an iPad, a Chromebook.
Yeah, that's what I was I was wondering if then potentially I could run a whole Windows desktop from my giant iPhone. So that then opens it up. The one thing that I do know about Microsoft that I can say with 100% confidence is that they do want to have their software, their services on every platform. Is this like the do you think this is the main channel through which they can do this, or is this just one way that they're kind of making it available to others?
It's the latter.
It's the latter. Okay.
Yeah, it's never going to be well, I shouldn't say never, but today it's just one of many avenues.
Any last thoughts on the Windows Virtual Desktop, and now that it is feature complete? Other than you said people should be out there testing it, how does one go about, hopping on and being able to test it?
Right. So all you have to do is just go do a search for Windows Virtual Desktop Preview, and you will come onto the page where you can get some information and download the preview.
Awesome. Well, speaking of Windows Remote stuff, we've got the Windows Remote Desktop Services has some flaws in it. They are called, quote, wormable flaws. So can you tell us a little bit about these wormies that are a problem for Windows?
I cannot tell you a lot about this, but I did want to just make it a topic because I know people who listen to this show are big into Patch Tuesday. Do you know what Patch Tuesday is, Micah?
Patch Tuesday?
Yes.
That is a cocktail you can order at a bar.
Love it.
No.
Yep.
No, darn it.
But you probably would
wait,
want
hold on a second. Before you tell him what it is, understand that you can never step back from this. He might be better off
just thinking it's a cocktail.
Never hearing this. Yeah.
I like your thinking, though. Like the way you could think of it is you will need a cocktail after you have to endure Patch Tuesday.
Okay.
Right.
So what is Patch Tuesday?
The second Tuesday of every month. Microsoft calls it Update Tuesday because that's a better name for them. Doesn't sound so bad like Patch Tuesday. Patch Tuesday is when they roll out all the fixes, and especially security fixes for all their different software that's out in the world that's ready to go to Windows 7, Windows 10, all their different products. If you're an IT pro, Patch Tuesday is like something you dread, but you kind of have it on your calendar and
so every second Tuesday of every month.
Yes.
Okay.
There's never a month where they say, guess what? There's no patches. That never happens.
Then we do need to come up with a cocktail. We'll link up. We'll talk. We'll figure out what the Patch Tuesday cocktail is. We'll get it out there so that all those people who are patching on those Tuesdays can have something to get them through it. So was this kind of a roll? Is this going to be rolled out as part of that Patch Tuesday fix, or are they working on it?
Yeah. So yesterday was Patch Tuesday for August. And the biggest news for Patch Tuesday this time was there's a vulnerability in Windows, almost all versions of Windows, called Blue Keep. It also goes by CVE 2019-0708.
Not as flashy.
Exactly.
Rolls right off the tongue. And so they already had patched Blue Keep in May. Hold on, my phone is ringing.
Sorry, guys, she has to take this.
It's about Blue Keep. No.
You can never call it that second name.
Yeah. So they had to patch 2 other Blue Keep flaws that they said were susceptible to wormable attacks, which means they can spread from one computer to another without user interaction. And so yesterday, if you're looking at yesterday's Patch Tuesday's patches, you definitely have to apply these 2 that are for remote desktop protocol. If you're doing nothing else, you have to make sure to do that. I don't know a lot about it because I don't follow security as closely as some of the other people on my site, but I just wanted to make it clear that this is something people should pay attention to if they somehow did not see that this is something that came out yesterday.
Right. I think that's very important that you've got plenty of people who listen to the show who I'm sure either with their own devices are using this or are those IT professionals. And so it's nice to have that little heads up. Don't forget to patch for these things because they're not fun. They're they're certainly a big issue.
Yes.
Now, this is something, as I was reading through the show doc, I found this kind of interesting. So it says, Microsoft releases 2 different builds of Windows 10 for some reason. But we figured out why.
I feel bad for you because you're going to hear lots of things that are just epically pointless.
So weird.
And it's just the stuff we deal with on a day-to-day basis. And so I'll just give you the mile-high view on what this means, but just the background of this, which is that Microsoft is openly testing the next 2 versions of Windows 10. And one of them is coming out in the fall, and that's 19H2, which is the one we're about to talk about. And then there's a bigger release coming out next spring called 20H1, right? Okay. And there's a lot of confusion around this, so I don't want to beat it to death, but the system they're using currently to test 2 versions at once is completely different than the system was 6 months ago and earlier. Previously, we were only testing the very next version at one time. And then just to kind of throw something added into the mix, they're also doing what I think of as A/B testing, where certain kinds of updates are only going to certain testers, and there's no real way to understand why or who is getting those. And so what this story is about is that for the first time in this legacy of first times, they actually released 2 different builds of the same next version of Windows 10 simultaneously to different audiences. So just in case you didn't think it could get more confusing.
I need another cocktail just for this, right? just for the insider testing.
So there's obviously a reason for this. Is it more?
I love that you think there's a reason.
There's got to be. Is it one version has something, the other version has something else? I mean, are they really kind of doing, like you said, A/B testing, or because they're not just doing it for fun to confuse people, right? That's not something they do, is it?
No, that's probably the primary driver, but there are other reasons.
I like, you know what? If jaded was the energy we said we were going to go into with this, but there's something, I wasn't expecting this positive jaded energy. This is good.
right. The embrace the jadedness.
It's like skepticism, which is good. I mean, so there's all, like we said, we're wanting to test these 2 new versions of the next version of Windows 10. Does this lead to people kind of trying to dig into those 2 versions and see what's different? Because I think of when a new OS comes out, when a new version of iOS comes out, everybody immediately digs in and they're like, okay, this is what's different now. Are there folks that are digging in and trying to find out the difference?
Yeah, of course. And Microsoft does explain as they release builds, here's what's new in this build. The thing that's changed is that previously, like I said, every 6 months, Microsoft would release a new version of Windows 10. And so for the preceding 6 months, you would test that version. There would be new features, and not in every build, but in many builds. And that would be part of the discussion. People would find other things. But 19H2, which is the version that's coming out in the fall, is very different. And so this version, and I think the part of the testing here has to do with the differences, is more of a what Microsoft calls a cumulative update. It's no, I guess they're all cumulative updates. It's a quality update, right? And so it's not a bunch of new features, although there are a couple of new features. And I think a lot, because everything has to be confusing. And they're going to roll it out very differently. And so it will appear on your PC as a different kind of an update, which is interesting. A lot of the new stuff will be turned off by default. And I think it's kind of hard to tell for sure, but I believe that part of what they're doing here is testing this new system that they have for controlling whether features are delivered to the client or not. Because in the past, like iOS, for example. So iOS comes out, iOS 13 will come out in September. It's a huge release, right? And so aside from app updates, which happen constantly, I know it's not literally it, but it's pretty much it for the year.
Yeah.
There will be point releases, of course, and there might, and Apple will occasionally release new features in those point releases, but for the most part, it's this giant monolithic thing. Mm-hmm. And if there's a big new feature that doesn't make it into 13.0, typically you won't see it until 14.0 next year or whatever. So Microsoft has done the same thing with Windows. And I think that this one release, they're just doing something a little different. You know, we're going to see if we can control the delivery of individual features rather than one giant collection of new features.
Gotcha.
Speaking
of those new features, dark mode? Huh? Dark theme. Sorry, excuse me, dark theme. Dark theme.
Are you referring to, you mean in iOS?
No. It's from Thurrott.com, Microsoft Edge developer update with lots of dark theme improvements. What's this about?
Yeah, that's on an app basis. So Windows 10 actually already has a dark mode. That came out in, actually, when did that come out? It came out, might have been a year ago. I don't remember. Sometime last year, probably 1803. And then the built-in apps, by and large, pretty much support it. Most of them automatically, not all of them. But Microsoft is in the middle of replacing its Edge web browser with a version based on Chromium. And one of the weirdnesses of the existing version of Edge, see, we're really going through the weeds here, sorry, is that...
I'm digging it.
It is...
I hope the listeners are too. I am.
It's interesting. It's like forcing me to rethink things that I sort of take for granted, and I don't like it. But
I'm happy to help, Paul.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I will need a cocktail after this.
There you go.
Just having to reacquaint myself with this stuff. Microsoft Edge in Windows 10 today is one of the weird apps because it doesn't automatically match the theme of the OS. You have to manually switch it. And so the whole thing is changing. It's going to be a Chrome-based browser. Probably will come out in some final form, maybe late this year or next year or whatever. But they're testing it along the same lines as Edge. And so they have nightly and canary builds. They have weekly dev builds. They will someday have beta and release builds as well. And so the dev channel release, which is the one that comes out, I think, every week. Does that sound right? Week? I think it's weekly. Was just updated to better support dark mode. And so this one, I probably wrong, but I believe it will. I can't say that it will. I don't actually know. It should. I don't know if it will, but it should automatically match the mode you're using in Windows.
Gotcha. Now, I just have to know, and maybe you've answered this question before, but I haven't been able to ask you, both of you, do you like dark theme, dark mode? Do you use those on your personal devices, or are you more of a light theme kind of person?
Yeah. I use dark mode.
I don't care.
You don't care?
No.
Mary Jo doesn't see colors apparently.
So I'm all, you know what I care about? Words. Like when people say to me, do you like this logo? Do you like this icon or this one? And I'm like, don't they look the same? And they look completely different. I don't really see things like that. So if something's in dark mode and somebody said to me, are you using dark mode? I'd be like, I don't know. Am I?
Well, the Target logo or the Target word mark, JCPenney word mark, those are just words. Do you? Yeah. You like those ones?
It's not so much about liking. It's just, I guess I just am oblivious to it.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're like more focused on the word.
Yeah, I am. Like Microsoft has this whole design language in Windows 10 that they call Fluent, right? And so all the time people are showing images of things. They're like, oh, I love how they made this look more like the Fluent structure, the Fluent design. And I'm like, it looks the same to me. It looks the exact same.
So I find dark mode to be easier on the eyes. And one of the things I'll say is we use OneNote for the notes for the show, for example. Yeah. If I had if I had the default light theme on with the default desktop, it would light my face up in the camera. Like it's really bright. And the OneNote app recently got dark mode support. And so I can see the notes in dark mode, which is actually kind of nice because before I had to kind of put it off to the side because it was so bright. That during the show, it actually just kind of lit up my face.
So that's my problem. I need to download OneNote because I'm looking at it in the browser and it is blasting my retinas.
Yeah, right. So they probably don't support
sorry,
dark
Mary
mode.
Jo. I mean, all I can see are the words.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at a white background with some underlined text, and it looks great.
He's going to finish this show and be like, those people need psychiatric counseling.
No, you just need a cocktail. That's all.
Yep.
No, but I do appreciate you going into detail there about the differences between, these two versions that are coming out and how they're kind of testing, okay, let's push these features to the user or not.
I mean, I have to. Well, it's not a complete guess, but I mean, you have to. They don't really always spell it out very clearly what they're doing. And honestly, one of the many issues we have in this community, and we're gonna get through at least a couple of them by the time this show's over, is Microsoft has this several million people have signed up for the Insider program to test the future versions of Windows 10. And when people sign up to do that, and they sign up to get on the fast ring, which is the one that comes out the most, now is 2 versions out. Those people, they want to test Windows. That's what they signed up for. And so one of the weird things that they do is this kind of A/B testing where they have just decided that, not every build, but every, few builds is like, hey, well, here's a feature, only some of you are going to get it. And, a lot of the people who have signed up for this, but that's what I want to test. That's why I'm here. So it's just one of the many weird things, I guess, that we kind of deal with.
19H2, which you'll hear us talk about again whenever you do Windows Weekly again. It's such a weird one-off. We think it's a one-off. I mean, we're not sure if they're going to do this again when they have 20H2, but it's so different from all these other feature updates they did up till now, because all the other feature updates, they were like, now with 300 new features, like now look at all these features. And now we're coming to one where the selling point of it is we're going to have all the features turned off by default.
Oh, wow.
But, so for people who are, as we call them, IT pros, the people who do all the patching and all the back end work in their organizations, they're super happy about this, right? Because every time one of these things come out, they're like, oh no, 300 more features, right?
300 features I have to support, everything. I have to test, I have to explain, I have to show how to turn off. So
we just mentioned Patch Tuesday, right? So if Patch Tuesday was the only system, or it was the extent of the system, at least it would be this known quantity. On the second Tuesday of every month, you're going to get some kind of a quality update that will include security and the security and bug fixes, and it will require a reboot. That's the deal. The problem with Windows 10 is that actually the way it's gone down is, if you look at this past year, most months I bet we got close to 3, the equivalent of 3 of those types of updates. They arrive on random days. You never know they're coming. There are just more of them than is what's scheduled. It's just the way the world is these days. And then on top of that, twice a year, you get what Microsoft calls a feature update, which is what this 19H2 is and what 20H1 is. And a feature update is actually a major new version of Windows 10. It's like installing it's like upgrading to a new OS essentially. And, it's bad enough as an individual, having to deal with that. You sit down, your computer has to reboot, whatever. But for people who manage multiple systems, and many times, thousands of systems, like this level of updating is onerous. It's a huge problem. And so shipping a new kind of feature update where the features are off by default, it's deployed like a standard cumulative monthly quality update, is actually kind of a big deal, because that lightens the load for those guys. And I think that's part of what they're testing.
And we think that's kind of still where Windows is really, or at least has an eye on that, because presumably you've got people who are supporting a whole lot of Windows systems, and they're going, why do you keep turning on, why do you keep having all these features? That is
exactly the conversation. Yeah. So in the old days, a business would deploy Windows XP or Windows Vista or Windows 7, whatever it was. And that thing was supported for 10 years. And so, there would be Patch Tuesday would come, and they'd be the quality type updates, whatever they called them back then. There might be service packs, which were just really cumulative updates, a way to get a bunch of monthly updates from before into a single install. And that was the deal. And they would stay on that thing for 10 years in many cases. Windows 10, it's it's much quicker. They've kind of adopted the mobile mindset when it comes to updating, but iOS is updated once a year. Android is updated once a year with major versions. Windows is upgraded twice a year for some reason. Windows is 35 years old. It's a really mature operating system. It really doesn't need, in my opinion, that level of updating, but that's what they've been doing.
And these end up mostly being security. How can you, like you're saying, it's 35 years old. What do you keep adding to it
there's a laundry list of wonderful new features, from, mixed reality features and 3D paint programs, and just, the Fluent design system Mary Jo mentioned, which is kind of just a kind of a more modern take on the UI, which they're rolling out in little blobs across the OS over many years. The first 3-4 years of, I will say 3 years of Windows 10 were marked by those kind of what I thought of as kind of nonsense updates. It was just superfluous stuff that just so they could talk about it. Like, hey, look how exciting this is.
The clown nose updates.
Yeah, exactly.
But but there also were some real features that people cared about, mostly around security, right? Like the sandbox that they just introduced in 1903, which is sort of not working yet. Things.
Well, but that's, by the way, you're right, and that's part of the problem, because those things can get lost when there were really good things to get, and they've learned a lesson too. There's a new version of the terminal application coming. There is, I should say, a terminal application coming that will replace the 3 command lines you can get in Windows 10 today. It's wonderful, but it's being deployed as a store app. It's something that's outside of the OS. It's the right way to do it, rather than force everyone to upgrade to a new version of the operating system. The browser is the same thing. The Microsoft Edge browser previously or to date has only been available inside of the OS. So they only released updates to that thing twice a year, and you had to be on the latest version of Windows 10 to get the updates. Now, whereas if it's just a standalone app, anyone can get the updates.
There's a theory that Apple will sometimes hold back on, and it ends up being maybe a little true, maybe not, but ends up holding back a little bit on releasing new emoji or bitmoji or Animoji or whatever, different characters and things like that that you can add until they've got all the security updates they want to get out. Because if they were to just release security updates in an iOS update, folks don't want to go and hit that update button and wait for their phone.
Yeah.
But new emoji? Oh, yeah, I'm going there. Do you think that there's some of that at play? You mentioned, we've got the sandbox, and it might not be working right now, but are people updating for those clown nose updates as opposed to
I think the problem was first of all, most people don't understand what they're doing, right? So most people just use it. No, I mean, I don't mean that in a mean way.
That's fair. They're
using a computer. They don't hear anything about what's coming in some future version of Windows 10. They don't really care. If you didn't look too closely, it's kind of the Mary Jo experience where you go from 1803 to 1809. You're like, it just looks the same to me. If you were to look around in the start menu, you might see a couple of new applications. If you were up on that, I mean, most people aren't, So the problem with just adding stuff to the operating system and tying it to a version of the operating system, actually, there are many problems, but one of them is just like a security thing, which is something Microsoft figured out 20 years ago and apparently is forgetting about today, which is just the attack surface issue. The more stuff that's in the system, the more points of attack there are. And if those things are like superfluous and unnecessary to most people, it's kind of arbitrary to just add them. It's in fact, it's I don't know. It's not very responsible in many ways to just keep adding stuff to the operating system. Most people don't use Windows to play with Windows. They have to run Word or Photoshop or play a game or whatever it is. So the fact that there's some 3D bouncing ball over in a corner somewhere is probably not that exciting to most people.
That's fair. Yeah. I think of a lot of, for the folks that I know that are using Windows computers, it tends to be for the streaming. My younger brother, he streams on Twitch, like he does that professionally, and he's got a Windows machine, but I'm sure he doesn't know about the bouncing ball in the corner like you talked about.
I hope not. All it would do is take away system resources.
Right. I need this latest update because it supports this video card or what have you.
Like Mary Jo said, I mean, the security stuff is important. If Microsoft is updating Windows 2 or 3 times in a month, which they are, a lot of times it's because there are security updates, and that's just the reality of today's world. So I don't criticize them for that. It's unfortunate, but they have to do that. They're doing it. It's responsible. That's fine. The feature update stuff is weird. I mean, imagine if Apple switched to twice a year major versions of iOS and macOS. All of a sudden it's just accelerated. And why would you do that? Especially in the case of Mac. Well, actually, in both of them, they're both mature operating systems. I mean, what are we adding here? Flying cars? Like, what's the next thing? I don't get it. Teleportation.
The computer will fly. Yes.
Well, iOS 13 has a dark mode, and that's great. But from an important architectural standpoint or whatever, it's not really that different, right? It's the same operating system.
Right. And I'm just looking at the words anyway. I don't notice a difference.
I don't.
It's amazing how quickly you've gotten us.
Well, that means a lot to me. Before we move on to talk about Bill Nye and what he's up to, I do want to take a second to tell you about our sponsor this week. It is ExpressVPN. Now, you can protect your online privacy with ExpressVPN, and we thank you for bringing us Windows Weekly this week. If you believe that you're not being snooped on or that nobody cares about your online data, you're wrong, because there are lots of companies out there that are looking at that online data, that are, tracking you across the different sites that you visit. We know about that. We know about ISPs, those internet service providers that have access to your browsing information. And that is why securing your data with ExpressVPN, securing your time online with ExpressVPN is so important. Their apps use powerful encryption to secure your data across all sorts of devices. In fact, that is why I really am impressed with ExpressVPN, because it doesn't matter what device that I'm trying to connect from. I remember going online and looking to see, okay, this is how I install it. It even had, here's how to set it up so that when you're watching Apple TV, you're running it through ExpressVPN. I think that's pretty incredible. And it's also important to note that ExpressVPN has amazing new cutting-edge server technology called Trusted Server. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Trusted Server, because this is the industry's most advanced VPN server technology. So for some VPNs, how it works, you're on your computer, your data flows out to the virtual private network, and then it goes to whatever site or service you're trying to connect to, goes back through and is routed back to your computer. And that keeps that person, that VPN in the middle of you and whatever it is you're trying to view, to give you some more security, some more privacy. Now, most of the time, those VPN servers are connected with hard drives. So it is, every time you're going through, that's saved on those hard drives until they decide to remove the data from those hard drives. ExpressVPN, with their Trusted Server technology, they use RAM. That means every reboot, that data goes away, and every startup again, it's brand new, it's fresh. So you're not worried about that data, potentially being there for a little bit of time. Every time they reboot that server, it's gone. Now, the servers, of course, never write to the hard drive, so that's going to keep you free from risk. And this is what I love too. The entire software stack is reinstalled fresh every time those servers boot up. So with some VPNs, you might have this situation where this server and this server is running an old version of whatever VPN software they have, and these ones have the most recent one, but they're not all running the same thing. Well, not only is the data removed every time because you've got it running on RAM, but also whenever that starts up again, it pulls from a secure image of the software and starts that VPN software fresh and new, so they can keep track and make sure that it is running the latest no matter which VPN server you're connected to. That's ExpressVPN's server technology called Trusted Server, and it's part of the reason why I think ExpressVPN is incredible. Now, it's time to stop hackers, Big Brother, whether it be just your big brother or Big Brother, and internet companies from grabbing all your data. You can take back your online privacy with ExpressVPN. Protect your online activity today and find out how you can get 3 extra months free with a 1-year package at expressvpn.com/windows. That's expressvpn.com/windows for 3 extra months free with a 1-year package. Once again, that's expressvpn.com/windows to learn more and check out ExpressVPN. We thank you so much, ExpressVPN. Now let's talk about Bill Nye, the science guy. Is he betraying us, Mary Jo Foley? Is he betraying us?
Nah, he's just doing what he has to do based on who's paying him.
Oh, that's kind of what we all do, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, thank you. Exactly. See, I wasn't offended by this, but so many of my readers were, and it bothers me that this bugs people so much. First of all, I think Bill Nye is a credible person. I think a lot of the messaging around Chromebooks is actually very positive anyway. Like any marketing, this commercial we're referencing without explaining what I'm talking about is, goes a little further than I would like in some cases. But it's if you think back to I'm a Mac, I'm a PC ads that Apple did whenever that was 15 years ago. A lot of those really went too far. They were just inaccurate or just purposefully deceitful or whatever. But I mean, most of the things he says about Chromebooks or Windows PCs here are I think, things that most people would, recognize as being true.
Yeah. I just wanted to really quickly.
I wasn't even offended. Were you? I was like, yeah, no, a lot of people are afraid to switch, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. We talk about this kind of thing a lot. We have these, I think of them as traditions, but they're just habits, whatever. We do things because we've always done them a certain way, and you sort of forget why you did it in the first place, and it's hard to let go.
Yeah, so to explain really quickly for folks who are going, why are we talking about Bill Nye? Google has a long-form ad out. It's got Bill Nye, the science educator, and it's talking about pushing Chromebook as a replacement for Windows. And I should say that I am pretty much quoting that from a certain website, Thurrott.com, in fact.
Yep, those guys.
Those are not my words, but Paul's words. Sure. But yeah, that is the Chromebook can be a replacement for Windows, says Bill Nye. And it's kind of a fun, long form article or ad rather, where he's kind of showing the difference. Although the screenshot that you have here on the article, it's got Bill Nye next to a car that has duct tape all over it and the Windows license plate. So are we saying what Windows is like it's an old car that's fallen apart? What's the deal?
Sure. That's accurate. I mean,
wait, that's accurate.
And it's comedic. It's comedic in the ad because the bumper falls off, and then he tries to start it and it won't start, and it kind of blows up a little bit. And his whole point is like, look, there's this thing that boots up really quick, and it doesn't interrupt you with updates all the time. Although obviously it does get updated every 6 weeks. Not quite as often as Windows, but it does get updated. And fine. I mean, the one thing I was surprised by the blowback from, like I said, from my readers about this guy and the ad. But the big thing for me is that the world has changed. I mean, there are people like I need to use Windows. I actually need to use Windows, and I have my own reasons for that or whatever. There are certain people who are developers or power users or engineers or whatever it might be, but they need all of the stuff that Windows provides, and there's a complexity that comes to that, and a cost for sure, but there's also a power to it. But in this day and age, many people can get most of what they need to get done on a phone, and they need an occasional bigger screen, full-size keyboard, whatever, for some things. And honestly, a Chromebook is not a bad choice for that audience, and because it's a simpler device,
I could use a Chromebook easily.
Yeah, I had this conversation with my wife actually, and she was saying she could as well. I can't. I mean, I do different things, but most people can. I think most normal people probably would be pretty well served by a Chromebook. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. So
unless I guess you're,
the conversation here is kind of there are other options out there, and that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And also keep in mind, what is an ad? Ads are supposed to be over the top, right? It doesn't mean that he's giving you a factual representation.
You know what though? It's good-hearted, isn't it? I mean, the whole presentation of it's humorous, and it's not. I didn't find it to be awful. No,
I was way more offended by the Mac versus PC ads.
Yeah, right. And if you knew too much about what they were saying, you should be offended by some of those ads. Like those went over those were deceptive in many ways, But I mean, like I said, I wrote down much of what he said in the article I wrote, and then you can go see it for yourself. But okay.
Well, and what's funny here, even not too long ago, I remember Apple putting out ads about the iPad and talking about what's a computer, and so even folks within the Apple ecosystem were getting mad at the company for saying, oh no. And that's kind of what this comes down to. There's unfortunately, because of evolutionary instinct and the way that we used to we used to live in small groups, and anything that was different from us then was dangerous because it provided it was not what we knew. There's still some of that caveman
there's
brain.
not just some of it. I mean, if anything, the
fair.
Internet has amplified this.
Has
right?
amplified
I mean,
caveman brain, absolutely. And so we, instead of being able to, where in the past it would literally save our lives if we were with our group and we supported our group, now our caveman brains, our cave person brains don't have anything to latch onto. And so we choose things like Windows versus Chromebook versus whatever.
Yeah.
And we throw that
which is
same amount of
goofy when you
energy
think about
into.
someone getting wrapped up in this, you know. I chose a Windows computer, or I chose a Mac, or whatever the product might be. I chose an iPhone, you know. And now, if anyone criticizes that thing, they're criticizing you because you obviously don't make good decisions. You know,
Right.
And everything gets kind of personalized. I feel bad that the world is that way, but and it is that way. But Mary Jo apparently as well. I mean, I wasn't offended by this at all. And I think the one thing I can bring to this story, which I feel like no one else remembers, is back in 2000, Bill Nye hosted the virtual launch event that Microsoft had for Windows Millennium Edition. And,
oh, wow. Really?
Yeah. I looked for I couldn't find a video of it. But you may remember, of course, Microsoft was in the process of switching to NT from 9X, and then midstream they decided they needed to ship one more version of 9X, which they called Millennium Edition. But it was actually, there were actually some really important things in that release, but it was not very well received. And I think they saw that coming, and they, instead of having like a big launch event like they had previously, they just had a video online you could watch for the launch. So it was kind of a very strange
thing. They did it in malls. Remember, like if you went to one of their stores in a mall, you could like see it. But I had to go out to where did I have to go? Long Island, because there were no Microsoft stores in Manhattan at that time. And I just remember walking in and here it is. That's it. You know?
Yeah, I went up to the North Shore somewhere in Massachusetts. I can't remember the name of the town, but yeah, it was like everything, because of the name. You know, Millennium Edition was like me, so Windows Me, and all the marketing was like for those events was like meet me, you know, come see me, you know, like whatever.
It's cute.
It wasn't a high point.
Yeah, the software itself, but that's kind of a cute little thing. Meet me at the what did they call it at the time? What was at the mall? Meet me at the mall.
Yeah.
Meet me at the mall. Oh, Lord.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I like this article, again, from you, Paul. Intel's Project Athena is engineered for mobile performance.
Oh, God.
So they announced that laptops that are verified through this program will be labeled as such, and quite literally labeled. We've got a new fun piece of flair for certain computers. Is that the deal?
Yeah, because what we need on Windows computers is the sticker. You know, it's like a NASCAR, a race car or something. So I mean, Intel and Microsoft does this too. Has various certification programs. When a computer passes a certain, has a certain, components or whatever, it qualifies as a thing. And so we have like always connected PCs is one of those things. Actually, it's two of those things, because Intel and Microsoft have separate programs for those that are the same thing, but whatever. This is in response to criticisms that Intel's chipsets have evolved to become very powerful, but they don't do so well on the mobile side of the fence. And with Qualcomm and other companies starting to push into the PC space, they're trying to improve matters. And so a computer, actually, Mary Jo, you might be interested in this bit of it. I don't know if you saw this, but if you look at their fact sheet, it actually says, let me find it. Why can't I find it? One of the certifications has to do with battery life, right? And so
that's good. Yep.
Yeah, but it's real world battery life. So in other words, what it says is it has to be, it's 16 hours or more of battery life in video playback, which is what everybody uses.
Yeah.
Or 9 or more hours of battery life in real world performance conditions. And that's the one. Yeah, finally, right? And so
finally.
Yeah. We've actually, I'd say for a few years, maybe 2-3 years now, there's a growing collection of computers that get anywhere from 9 to not quite 20, but somewhere, 9 to 15, 16 hours of battery life. And now you'll be able to identify them in the store by that sticker that will get caught on your fingernail and gouge into your skin as you type.
Ouch.
But yeah.
I really hope this battery life thing is real, because when you just said there are PCs out there with 9 to 15 hours, I have never, ever.
Yeah, you're like, I've never seen such a thing.
The mythical.
Oh, you noticed that.
The mythical PC. It says real-world testing conditions include out-of-box default settings along with respective value-add software, display brightness set to 250 nits, and always connected to internet with commonly used applications installed such as Office 365, etc. Oh, including multiple tabs. So you multiple tabs, folks.
That's good.
That's supposed to be able to still...
in other words, it's real world. I think this is it's important for, well, I don't think we need a sticker.
Right.
But,
no.
I don't have a problem with this. I mean, otherwise, I mean, and all of the major PC makers have signed on, as they actually do for almost everything. I mean, Intel has had various programs like this. Remember the Velocity program for getting computers to boot up really quickly in the Windows 7 timeframe or whatever. So this is just the latest in a long list of this kind of thing. But, you know, we're trying to get PCs to the place where they're not just super powerful multi-core, lots of RAM, lots of storage, you know, monster devices, but also computers that can last, you know, for more than a day on a charge or whatever.
Well, and
you know what they're missing? They're missing one thing on this spec sheet. You know what I'm going to say, don't you?
Oh, lappability?
Yes, they need a lappability score. And if you need help with that, I'm right here.
Tell me more about this lappability score.
You're just the insight.
I wonder where my
into our
dogs
lives
rank
is,
on this scale.
right? So
is it about heat? Is it about?
No. It's about, does it go on your lap and can you type on it without it tipping over or without you having to contort your body into some unnatural state like you do with the Surface?
What she means is a typical laptop, like a real laptop. Well, you can put it on your. Most people can put those on their lap and they sit there and, you know, maybe they have to support the weight with their hands or whatever, but it will stay on their lap. But Microsoft, of course, and some other PC makers market these tablets as computers. They have type covers instead of hard like metal covers, and they will actually fall over on your lap, especially if you have short upper legs, which apparently Mary Jo does.
I do not. I have normal legs.
Your legs are normal. I believe it. Now,
you little Mary Jo legs.
You can't.
No.
You can't type on a Chihuahua, so I guess my dogs don't have a lappability score, but
they probably don't.
That's too bad. That's interesting. And one of the other things that's in this article, you know, that you're talking about here that I didn't know is sort of part of the mobile performance feature. They've got to have instant resume. So it's kind of like having with a phone or a tablet where you can instantly, that's not a word, instantly launch it. Instantly.
Well, by the way, one of the little details in the Chromebook ad that we were talking about that I took exception to was this note, you know, that Chromebooks like start up instantly or start up very quickly from a cold boot. Actually, you know, so do Windows computers, right, today. But of course, what he's describing is you have an old computer and you keep using it because you're afraid to move on. And what he's saying is instead of buying a new computer that would solve some of the problems too, you can buy a Chromebook instead because it's simpler and more secure, whatever the marketing is. But yes, I mean, a modern computer, we've had instant resume for a long time. We've had, you know, advanced power states that are similar to what you see on mobile devices for a long, long time. It's Windows, so they don't always work. Yeah, they don't always work. That's for sure. No. I mean, literally, the computer I'm using, I keep talking about this because it's driving me insane. Like, probably as soon as next week, I will be using a different computer.
Wow.
I've been using this computer for almost a year. I love it. But 3 days a week, roughly, I'll come downstairs in the morning and I'll tap the control key to bring the screen up and it doesn't come up. But the computer's running in the back. Like the windows are all open. I just can't see them. There's nothing. I have to turn it off.
Whoa.
And it's maddening. And I've done everything. What's that?
Which PC is this?
It is. It's an HP Elite One. It's an all-in-one computer. The reason I put up with this is because the screen is gorgeous. It's like a 27-inch 4K HDR display. It's amazing.
Oh, I bet you just missed a Patch Tuesday. That's why it's not working.
I don't think that's it. So this will come up again. My tip is related to this. My tip is how to recycle a computer.
Wait. No. Do you have HP Sure Start on that machine?
So it's interesting that you mentioned that. As you may know, getting rid of HP Sure Start is it's like a medical procedure that normal people should never have to undergo.
No.
And as part of my what I would call it, recovery attempts or whatever. I did dismantle that. It does. In fact, the logo when it boots up still says Sure Start, but there is no Sure Start. I got rid of it. Literally half an hour before the show, I had blown it away earlier over the weekend. I reinstalled the support software from HP, and it downloaded a bunch of stuff, including a new version of the BIOS. It's not going to fix anything. I just want to be really clear about this. I've been struggling with this for 6 to 9 months, maybe more.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a really big problem. I should use a Chromebook.
But the bumper fell off of it the first day you got it.
Do they have a 27-inch all-in-one Chromebook? If they do,
I think that speaks though to the, like you said, the screen is wonderful, and that speaks to sort of where your priorities are, but where I think maybe a lot of folks' priorities are. It's
You're
not
going to say my fear of moving on, aren't you? That's what it is.
It is your fear of moving on. That duct tape that's all around it. You just got to let this thing go. No, I think that some people can sort of. It's like being in a relationship that you're not meant to be in, and you can sort of la. I don't see all the bad things because there are these good things. I think this time they're serious. They're going to really work with me.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're not going to betray me again.
Exactly.
But I'm telling you, I'm going to wake up in the morning. It's not going to come on.
Yeah.
And you will hear me screaming from the West Coast.
Yeah. That Sure Start thing. So that's a BIOS thing, right?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yep. You have to go into the.
But I mean, what does it do? It makes sure your BIOS doesn't get corrupted or something like that?
All right. So you're going to make me talk about this because this makes me crazy. All right. Here's what I will say. So HP, like all PC makers, believes that they can add value over what's in Windows, right? And that in doing so, they're doing something right for their customers. And sometimes they are. And HP in particular, this product, the thing I'm using, like the laptop I typically use, is the elite. The word elite in the name means it's a business class computer. It's not like a consumer device. And so it comes with a lot of technologies, software application services, et cetera, and hardware features like this that are aimed at businesses, right? And in modern businesses where you don't necessarily have an IT staff, but you do want to make sure that the computers are encrypted and protected during boot time, et cetera, et cetera. So Windows, like the Mac, like any mobile device, has various technologies that come into play when the device is offline or booting up to prevent, malicious code from being inserted into the boot process and then polluting the operating system. And Sure Start is an HP attempt to augment that. And
because I told you I'm having tons of trouble with it on the laptop that I have that's an HP EliteBook, right? Because it seems to conflict with Windows Hello somehow, or it sometimes overrides Windows Hello.
So oddly enough, the tip that I do have for today really is actually related to this. It's not about how to get rid of Sure Start, which, like I said, is like a medical procedure. It's actually very difficult. But if you want to get rid of the other HP security tools that are built into the business class computer you're using as well, there are recovery options in Windows that will help you do that, which I'll get to when I get to the tip. But
all right. Okay.
Yeah, because this is something I literally, I'll talk about this later. Again, I don't mean to destroy my tip, but I spent much of the weekend restoring this computer multiple different ways to see what the differences were. Basically, and part of it is just making sure they were the same as they were the last time I checked, because things change over time, but they are exactly the same as they were. But I can't fix it. I can't. It's not. I don't think it's fixable. It might literally be a physical connection problem in the base or something. I don't. I have no explanation for why this doesn't work.
But you keep giving it chances.
Well, I mean, literally. Well, yeah, I do, but I'm giving up. One thing that's cool about this display is you can repurpose it as a display. You can actually take it out of the base, pop it into a new base, and use it as just a display. So I'm going to look into doing that. You can use it as a display even in its current base. I am going to look into that. But I suspect if it is the display, that this problem will occur with a different computer as well. And so as soon as later today, I'm going to be testing that. But yeah, I'm obsessed by this now. I'm going to fix this. I got back we were away, for 3 weeks. I got home. I'm like, I am going to fix this problem. And the truth is, I'm not going to fix this problem. I'm probably just going to replace it with something else. But
which is a fix in its own way. But
true.
Yeah.
Maybe not the one you would like.
I want to keep using the display. I really like it. I wish I could just keep using this display, but it's getting beyond annoying. So
Well, speaking of getting beyond annoying, there's another one bites the dust in terms of Cortana support. Johnson Controls is removing, and I'm kidding, people. Cortana's fine. It's not annoying. Maybe it is, isn't it? I don't know. Johnson Controls is removing Microsoft's Cortana from the GLAS. That's GLAS, so you do have to say it like that. Thermostat. And this is what, one in a long list of different things that either like offered Cortana support at one point, no longer does. What's up with Cortana? How's Cortana doing? I haven't checked in.
Cortana's doing great.
Yeah, so things could be better. You know, so when Johnson Controls and Microsoft announced this partnership, by the way, this thermostat's beautiful. It's
gorgeous.
Have ever seen a picture,
it's gorgeous.
Lovely. When they announced it, it was going to be exclusively powered by Cortana, and it runs Windows 10 IoT inside. So it looked like a huge win for Microsoft, right? And it was one of the very first, if not exclusive, smart home devices using Cortana.
Yep.
Last year, Johnson Controls quietly added support for Alexa and Alexa and Google Assistant to the thermometer, but it didn't really tell anybody that. We found out because people saw it and they were like, "Hey, wait, wasn't this supposed to be a Cortana device?"
Yeah, but don't you think it's more likely that people saw this in a store and they were like, "This is amazing. Obviously, it works with Google Assistant or with Alexa." Yeah. It's like, yeah, actually, it doesn't. It's like,
right?
What?
It doesn't.
Why?
Right? It doesn't work with it the same way though. Like those other assistants are not integrated into the device.
Yeah.
You actually have to have another device like an Echo or a Google Home type device for that to work, right? But then this week, they started sending out, they being Johnson Controls, sending out notes to people who had bought this thermostat saying, by the way, we're removing Cortana now. So you ask, how is that doing? How is Microsoft's voice assistant doing? Not well. They're struggling to reposition it from being kind of a standalone competitor to Alexa and Google Assistant to more of something that's integrated inside of Microsoft's productivity apps, and that will assist you in doing things. But
so clippy,
it's
modern.
Not been a success.
There you go.
Yeah,
that's about right.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it.
So just as background for you, I would say if you're familiar with Siri, probably debuted in the iPhone 4 or 4S, maybe 2010, 2011-ish, somewhere in that time frame. Cortana came shortly thereafter. It was attached to Microsoft's Windows Phone products, which of course, failed in the marketplace. They're gone. They brought it to Windows for PCs, but most people, unless there's an accessibility need, don't really talk to their computers, and so it really hasn't flown too much there. But the other issue is, when you can attach a personal assistant, like a voice control system, to a very popular mobile platform like Android or iOS, you could have hundreds of millions of users very quickly. When you only have a computer system is used by a billion people, but almost none of them are using voice control.
Right.
It just doesn't go very well. So Cortana has struggled in the marketplace. But another, just a bit of insight into the community psyche. Microsoft, like Google, I would say, has a rich history of getting rid of products that people in that community really, really like. And Cortana, they've not gotten rid of Cortana, but you can kind of see the writing on the wall. And so it's in a long list of things like Zune and Media Center and
Zune,
Windows Phone, and there's a huge legacy of that kind of stuff. And so there's a lot of angst over the Cortana stuff. So they're removing it from Windows 10 as well, right? And so they pulled it out of the operating system, or they are in the process of doing that, and they're redoing it as a standalone app that can run on Windows 10. But they're also changing the way Windows 10 works with any voice control system, so that it could be, you could put Alexa there instead, or in the future probably Google Assistant as well. And you can kind of imagine how that's going over with the diehards.
The way they had integrated Cortana into Windows 10 by merging it with search was super confusing, right? And I think it's great that they separated it out and made search one thing. And if you want a voice assistant app and you like Cortana, you can get that. separately. Better.
By the way, I agree. And there is an argument to be made that by pulling it out of the operating system, Microsoft can update it more frequently, right? Because now it's just an app. Mm-hmm. And that's true. That's true. I don't think that any of this is going to change a thing. What it will do is make it much more easy for Microsoft to walk away from it, because once it's not part of Windows 10, it's just not, it doesn't have that, when you're part of the operating system, you have to support it forever. And if it's just an app, you could just kill it tomorrow.
Well, except
and kill it is a tough word, but they just stop updating it really easily.
Uh-oh. Yeah, except that here's another thing, Micah, that you'll find very confusing, because we find it very confusing too. So now when we say, now when we talk about Microsoft's digital assistant, I'm trying not to say it as much as I keep saying the word, because it triggers everybody. Yep. So it actually applies to two different things. So there's the standalone digital assistant that we've been calling Cortana. Uh-huh. Now there's also this technology that Microsoft's embedding in the Office apps that's also still called that, but they need a different name for that thing that's going into the Office apps.
They need, or they, like you're saying, that's your suggestion. Right now it's called the C name, but oh golly, Microsoft's Assistant. There we go. Microsoft's Assistant.
Right.
So this actually is not as well. It's equally confusing, but I'm used to it because with iOS we've got Siri, which I can say, as long as I don't say a certain word beforehand. And Siri is not just the virtual assistant, but is also what they call their machine learning technology that offers up suggestions for apps and things like that to use. And while
so
it's not
just as confusing.
Exactly. It's precisely just as confusing. It's trying to be everything. And I get that. I think that there's something maybe less scary to folks if you give it a name and it's like, this is helping you do this, versus, oh yeah, I've got this machine learning code in my phone and it's helping me. Well, I guess not phone for Windows.
It's not objectionable in any way that it's an assistant and it has a woman's voice. And so why would anybody be freaked out by this? Like, it's just, there's all kinds of things wrong with it. But the issue is, if you walk into not Best Buy, like a Lowe's or a Home Depot or whatever, and you go down the smart device aisle and there's smart switches and lights and security systems or whatever it is, every single one of those will be compatible with the Amazon and the Google digital assistants. Most of them will be compatible with Siri as well. Almost none of them will be compatible with Cortana. And as Mary Jo said, I believe she's correct. This is the only smart device of its kind to ever be made specifically for Cortana. Certainly, there was exactly one smart speaker made, the Harman-Kardon,
which we're going to talk about right now.
Yep. And but I think that's the extent of the ecosystem, right? So the Windows phones are gone. It's in Windows 10 for PCs, but basically nobody, not literally, but basically nobody uses it. It's available as a mobile app for Android and iOS, and I can't imagine anyone using that, especially on iOS where you can't replace the default assistant.
Oh, I use Cortana exclusively, actually. So,
okay.
Excellent.
Thank you for that.
So you can come to me for your Cortana questions.
Excellent. All right.
No, Mary Jo.
Anyway, so that's the state of it.
You talked about, you just see words on the new updates and things. I'm curious. Have you played around with Cortana, or are you going to like reveal on the show right now that you're the biggest Cortana stan and you use Cortana all the time in your Microsoft Office stuff?
So I am one of those people who bought the other device Paul was just talking about, which was the dedicated Cortana powered speaker from Harman-Kardon. I still have it.
Boy.
It's on my table in my living room. And you know what I mostly use it for? I say, set a timer. Right. And shut off the timer. That's pretty much what I do.
All I mean, sometimes for.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I check my schedule. I'll be like, what's on my calendar today? Very rarely ask about the weather. But I wanted to have
this little plastic thing for your kitchen that has like a dial on it. It's called a timer.
I have one of those ones you turn and it rings. Yep. I have one of those just in case, like if I lose my power.
I mean, it doesn't play your audiobooks, but.
No, I use it for Spotify too.
Yes, see, look, Mary Jo, I think you gotta grab this and say, yes, I am a proud Harman-Kardon Cortana speaker user, and maybe you'll be the last one, but I'm proud of you.
I know the problem is everybody's asking me on Twitter, is this the device that's going to lose it next?
Oh no.
Right?
No, that's the wrong question to ask. They're not going to. There is no other assistant that works in that speaker. That speaker will just disappear. You know, that company makes other smart speakers that run other assistants.
You'll have the last one then. You're going to be rich.
This is the first one and the last one. It's literally the only one.
Yeah.
I think that's the.
You know what? You own a piece of history and you use it proudly, and
it's a great speaker quality.
By the way, I was going to say the sound quality is amazing. It actually is a great speaker, but you can't make stereo pairs with it. You can't do whole house audio with it. It's literally it's a one speaker. You know, it's the flow chart where no one ends up at that speaker. But if you, for some reason, are in the Microsoft ecosystem, you got to have Cortana. You only want one speaker. You know.
Then that's
if you live in a small apartment in New York, one speaker like that can, service
can rattle the floors.
Well,
it is a high quality speaker for whatever it's worth. The hardware is really nice.
Well, when we're hanging out, Mary Jo, I think I'll be excited to hear this speaker. You can play your favorite Spotify playlist while we're having our Patch Tuesday cocktails.
Excellent. I like this. This is shaping up to be a great Tuesday. Yeah. It's Wednesday.
There we go. Yeah, even though it's Wednesday.
Even though it's Wednesday.
So let's talk a little bit about Microsoft Office. We've got, and these notes are so fun in here. It's fine. Everyone's happy that Microsoft has removed Office 2019 from its home use program. So I need to know first, and I know that the listeners out there are probably groaning, what's home use? I don't know that.
Oh, it's good. It's good to revisit this. So if you're a Microsoft Enterprise customer and you have software assurance, which is a plan you can have to cover you for a variety of circumstances and gives you other benefits, but you pay for it as your company pays for it. One of the benefits you've had up until now is your company could designate you to get a copy of Microsoft Office really cheaply, like $14.99. Microsoft Office usually costs multiple hundreds of dollars.
Right.
So if your company had this benefit, they could say to you, hey, if you want a copy of this for home, well, you can get it for $15. This year, though, Microsoft has changed the rules of its home use program. And now, instead of giving you that discounted copy of Office, the standalone Office, you get a discounted copy of Office 365 Home or Personal. You get 30% off the cost. So
we should explain what are those like? What is that real world, right? So Office 365 Home is normally $99, so you probably get that for about $70. Yep. And then Office 365 Personal is probably normally $70, and I can't do math, but let's pretend it's about $50, something like that.
Yep,
checks out for
me.
A lot
more than the but it's per year. It's per year, and it's what did you say? Office Perpetual was $15. $15. It's a big difference. Right. It's a big difference.
It is, but if you get Office 365 Home, you can run it on up to 5 to PCs or Macs, right?
Well, 5 separate accounts as well.
5 separate accounts, right? So if you're a multi-user household, that actually is a really good deal for you. But people don't like change, right? Like so many people who use this, they're like, I want the perpetual version. I don't want the subscription thing, right?
Yeah, I think we're starting to come into a time of really kind of an allergy to subscriptions in general. Yeah. I just recently changed. I don't like change. If anyone's telling you they love change, they're lying to you. It's a big lie.
Exactly.
They're a big liar and they're lying. I switched from my favorite, I'm not going to call them out, but I switched from my favorite mail application recently that I'd used for years because they switched to a subscription model. And
which one was it?
Oh, see, I said I wasn't going to call them out, but I guess I'll call them out for you, Paul. It's Airmail. I switched from Airmail, which I had been using for years on my iPhone and on my Mac.
What did you switch to?
I switched to Spark. And
I've never even heard of that.
I've been so two that didn't sound familiar, but Spark I've been happy with so far, but not as happy as I was with Airmail. But it was just I just have so many subscriptions already. Oof.
The interesting thing. So you're right about the subscription thing. That's a huge problem for people because you kind of get subscription or monthly feed to death or whatever. We haven't really talked about Office this way, but in the past, what we've said about Office is Office 365 is it's a good deal. Like it's a legitimately good deal. But you could also make the argument that Office is much like Windows. It's been around for 30 years or more, 35 years, whatever. It's a mature product line, right? If they add some esoteric new features to, Publisher or Word or something, I don't need them. I'm whatever the feature set is of Word today, it will be fine for the rest of my life. I mean, there's something to be said for this. You pay once and you just use it forever. The licensing is what kills it, because when you buy Office 2019, it's only for you. It's only on one computer. You don't get to install it on multiple devices like you can with Office 365. You don't get new features. They've kind of artificially, they don't even deliver the new features late. They've just kind of said, look, we're not delivering new features. I don't know that matters as much anymore. Microsoft could make the perpetual version of Office much more attractive to customers, but they have kind of artificially limited it instead. But I mean, honestly, look, every month they release some list of new features to Office 365.
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. I don't know that most of them matter to me, though. They're not, they're not nonsense features necessarily, but they're getting kind of esoteric.
There's some like morphing transitions in PowerPoint that I think some people would care about who make PowerPoint decks, but how many people make PowerPoint decks?
Right.
Yeah. Well, no, I should say, so don't get me wrong. Actually, I don't remember the name of the feature, but they added something to PowerPoint, for example, where it automatically creates like a theme that matches some graphic you have in the thing, and it makes really attractive looking presentations, which is a skill most people don't have. So there are useful features. But if I were to go back and look at a year of Office 365 features and literally list them out, the thousands of features, and go through and check off the ones that have impacted me, even once, let alone on a day-by-day basis, I bet it's zero for me.
Yeah, that's a good point. Once you've got your base features in there and you have been able to run, I remember getting the Microsoft Office suite back in high school even, and that version back then, although there were probably too many toolbars that I would like to clear out for now, that had all the features that I needed today. Yeah. And I guess that is one of the things that I do like about Pages, Numbers, and Keynote is that I bought it at one point, and now they just offer it for free anyway. But the thing you do pay for at Apple, probably, if you use that service a lot, if you use those apps a lot and use their cloud services, you're probably going to be paying for iCloud storage of some kind, right? Yes. And the primary reason, well, or I should say one of the primary reasons that most people pay for Office 365 today is that every user gets a terabyte of OneDrive storage. Wow.
And actually, for that price,
that's a big hunk.
Yeah. Well, when you think, $99 for 5 people, it's 5 terabytes of storage. You pay it every year. It's a yearly cost, but still, that's incredible. And that's even if you never think you're going to use any Office application or feature or whatever, just for the storage, it's kind of worth it.
That's true.
So I think that's one of the ways they justify it. They're not giving you storage with Office 2019, obviously. But yeah, I never really thought about it. It's funny. I've often complained about the new features they add to Windows. It's never occurred to me for some reason, to levy the same complaint against Office. But actually, it's almost as much of a problem in a way.
Yeah, I mean, they always say the biggest competitor to Office is Office, right? Because once you have your core set of features, like Micah was saying, like you don't really usually seek out like, what I wish I had? I wish I had an editor in Word that would tell me if I have bad grammar, right? You just always do things the way you've always done them. My
God, Word today has 27 different colored underlines when you write things, and they've updated the style guide. Yeah, I mean,
and also some new clip art.
It's really picky. And also, well, they did figure out the toolbar thing, by the way.
Oh, thank God. I'm glad to hear that.
Yep.
So, like you said, people are okay in the end with that change, and everything's going to be okay. Now, let's talk about everything's going to be okay. I promise. We're going to make it.
Everyone's happy. It's fine.
Everyone's happy. Everybody. Yeah, exactly. Nothing to see here, people. Xbox gaming. Microsoft kills Super Duper Graphics Pack for Minecraft. What?
So,
we need the Super Duper Graphics Pack. No, I feel like part of the
familiar. Well, you know, like Minecraft, right? Is like 8-bit graphics. So
right.
Really
yeah,
blocky,
that's part of the charm of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the Super Duper Graphics Pack was going to bump that up to like 16-bit graphics.
Oh man.
And apparently that was too much. Probably not obviously not for anyone's graphics card, but for probably just for the engine itself of the application. Although I don't. What was they just showed off that AR version of Minecraft that's coming to phones or whatever.
Yeah.
And that actually looks kind of incredible and not 8-bitty or 8-bit-ish or whatever the term is. But anyway, they're not going to do the Super Duper Graphics Pack. So sorry.
I think I'm okay with that because, like I said, I think part of the charm of this game was that very rough and tumble kind of feel. And you're right that the virtual space version, the augmented reality version, which is what I have been begging for forever. I think it'd be so fun to just play that on a living room table or something. It does look really good, but at the end of the day, I am okay with just blocks on blocks and not having too much there. Because for those of us on a Mac, it's a little bit harder to pump in some extra graphics to our machines. And so, yeah, I'm okay with that. And is this another? I didn't see it's fine, everyone is happy next to this, but how do we think people are feeling about it?
I have not heard any complaints about this one in particular. I think like you kind of suggested, people are fans of Minecraft. That's one of the things they like about it is just the quirky graphical nature of the game. I mean, it's like I don't know why I was just watching a video about this, but if you think about a video game like Doom, which is a first-person shooter that came out originally in 1993, probably, it was blocky looking and whatever it was, and then 10 years later they made this like 3D version where like pipes could bend as a creature came flying out of the wall, and it was dark and lights would swing, and the lights were all realistic and the physics were all realistic, and it was an okay game, but it wasn't Doom. It wasn't really this. It wasn't the same in any way. Mm-hmm. And I think if you screw around too much with the graphics of Minecraft, you end up with a game that might be good, but it's not necessarily the same game. So I think I don't have a problem with it.
I don't think I want my Pac-Man to be 3D and
yes, right.
3D ghosts flying around. Oh no, I'm not about that life.
It might be okay, but it's not Pac-Man.
Exactly, It's not Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Something else that isn't Pac-Man. Whoa, we did it again. This is something I hear my little brothers say a lot, but I have no idea really what it's about. Gears of War. The Gears 5 has completed development, and I'm sure that they're all very excited about it. And so this is a gun game, right?
It's a good yes. So yes. The reason this one is interesting, well, there are a number of reasons. So Microsoft, this was originally the game was created originally. The first game was created by Epic, and they sold after the original trilogy, they sold it to Microsoft. Microsoft created a game studio called the Coalition to develop future versions of the game. There was a Gears of War 4, they called it, that came out probably 2 years ago, which was okay. Yeah, it was okay. This version is really interesting though, because they clearly want to have another game franchise that's on the level of like a Halo. This one is going to be cross-platform, so it's going to run on Windows as well as Xbox. It's going to have lots of co-play capabilities, better multiplayer, which is always a huge problem. Microsoft is working toward a future game service called xCloud, and they have today game services like Xbox Live Gold, but also Xbox Game Pass, which is now available on the PC as well. And so if you subscribe to that service, either one, actually there were three. So there's one for the console, one for Windows, and then one that's for both, Game Pass Ultimate, right? So if you subscribe to any one of those services, you'll get this game actually early. So in very early September, you will get access to this game electronically as part of your subscription. And so it's all part of the whole Microsoft Xbox branded, game subscription service thing. Speaking of subscription services,
right? And one more subscription.
Yeah. So they finished it, so it will come out on time, I guess is the point. But we'll see.
Now, Mary Jo, I know you're a big Gears of War player, top ranked across the country.
More of a Call of Duty person, really.
Oh, gotcha.
I have a secret, gamer tag and stuff.
I got to guess what it is. It's Joe Foley.
Right.
I can't tell you what it is.
Man.
But
like Luke, I know you're
Luke
a good
Duke Nukem's brother.
No, this is exciting. The idea that, again, we were talking about subscriptions, but these gaming platforms and the subscriptions there, I think, make a lot of sense because there's so much work that goes into creating games and keeping those updated, and the huge teams that work on these different pieces of software. And that's one place of a few places where I really feel good about subscriptions going to those things. And
it's like a music subscription, right? I mean, you would buy some small amount of music, and I guess you could listen to that most of the time, but for $10 a month or whatever, you get access to 35 million songs or whatever the figure is. On the game side, for $10 a month, you get access to 100 games.
And that's wild because I can remember my brothers being, collecting their 6 games, taking them in, yep. And they needed that plus $40 more to buy the new game.
Right.
This is way more beneficial for them.
But there will always be people who, just like Office, there are people who just want the thing. They own the disc. They feel like it's a thing that they have that they can bring with them, and whatever. But I think a lot of games, too, you could spend $60 on a brand new game like Gears 5. Who knows if it's any good? And if you get that disc home and you install it and go through all that, and you're 10 minutes in and you realize this thing is a piece of junk, well, you're out. You're out.
Yeah, that's true. It's true.
But $60 would give you 6 months of Game Pass. Yeah,
that's what
you're going to play the
does,
game for
right?
6 months.
Oh yeah,
You've got the
I got the
subscription.
Game Pass.
Obviously, she got the ultimate Game Pass.
Yes.
Well, obviously.
I imagine you in this like big gamer chair, and you've got the big old headphones on.
Right.
Pretty cool. While the Harman-Kardon is in the background.
Talking trash incessantly over the microphone.
Exactly.
Oh,
it's like that voice is so familiar, but
where have I heard that? Oh boy. I think that about covers it for the games and everything.
No, did you guys see? I added one more thing to gaming.
Let's.
By the way, you don't understand how important this is. Mary Jo has only added an item to the Xbox section of the notes maybe twice.
Yeah.
It is monumental.
This is a big deal.
The Sounders have new... Yeah, to explain this to me, I'm not going to introduce this. You introduce this topic.
Okay. So this isn't about Xbox, but, esports, sports, gaming, I feel like they're all kind of together in our world.
Yeah.
So you have to talk about this because it was so weird. Yesterday, Microsoft... It was announced. I shouldn't say Microsoft announced it. Terry Myerson, who used to be the head of Windows at Microsoft, announced this, that he and a whole bunch of Microsoft current and former employees are now owners of the Seattle Sounders soccer team, the professional soccer team in Seattle. So who else is in there? Satya Nadella and his wife are among the owners. I know, that was like kind of a shocker, right? And Amy Hood, who's the CFO, and her husband, and Joe Belfiore, who works in Windows as a corporate vice president, and his wife are also among the owners. But who else? I don't know if either of you know Seattle sports teams, but Russell Wilson, who I guess plays football or something.
Oh, yeah, Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
And his wife, like Ciara, and then Macklemore. Like if you just look at the list of owners, there's a ton of them, and you're like,
it's
wow.
It's like the list of villains from like an Avengers movie or something.
Yeah. Did they all go out to dinner one night, and they're like, it'd be funny, we should buy this team, and then they're all just like, yeah, we'll put in a little bit.
It sounds like...
And then they woke up in the morning and they owned it.
Exactly.
Now, there was a group in California somewhere that was bidding to bring the Sounders to California and out of Seattle. And they were just like, no, this is not happening.
That was actually Leo and me. So we did lose to Satya Nadella, unfortunately. Right. Yeah, that's too bad.
Well, here's the Xbox connection. So last year, the Sounders jerseys had Xbox on it because Xbox was sponsoring the team. Now it's Zulily, I believe, who's like a clothing store.
Oh, no, they make the Zulily console.
Oh, right. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Zulily. They bought all the Zune IP from Microsoft.
Yeah. Yeah, those guys. The ones who now have the glass thermostats. Yeah, that one. Yeah, so I just wanted to throw that in there because it's just one of those things you're like, what?
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah. My biggest takeaway and the thing I learned from this announcement which won't matter to anybody except me, was I didn't know that Amy Hood, who's the CFO, her husband is a big wig at Accenture. Accenture is a big Microsoft partner and happens to be, I believe, still the biggest Windows 10
yep, that's right.
shop, right? Yeah, including
yeah,
Microsoft.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So kind of an interesting little.
That is interesting. You made that sports topic interesting to me, which is a very rare thing. So I appreciate that.
I did my
because
best.
It's soccer, it was mostly uninteresting to me, but
right. I said Russell Wilson, and you were like, wait, I think.
Wait, I know that name.
I saw the ears perk up and everything, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's time for tips and picks. And now that means you can tell us about the Windows 10 recovery options you were talking about earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
This came to mind because, like I said, over the weekend, I had blown this computer away several times and tried different ways to recover it just to see if I could arrive at a version of Windows 10 that would, actually work. And I may have been unsuccessful, but it was an interesting kind of reacquaintance with these tools because the way that Windows 10 is today, there are actually several different ways to do kind of the same thing, right? And the same thing is I want to kill Windows 10 and reinstall the operating system from scratch. There's a built-in tool called, well, it's called different things. I think it's called Reset This PC today, but it used to be PC Reset and PC Refresh. And basically, this is the tool that's built into Windows, although you can also access it by booting with your setup media, with a recovery disk, or just from the recovery environment that's built into the PC, or technically built into Windows. But it allows you to destructively or non-destructively reinstall the version of Windows 10 that's on the system at the time, right? So if you're running Windows 1903 and you reset the PC, either saving your data or not, what you'll arrive at the other side is 1903. You'll get whatever version's on the disk. There's another thing on the disk though too, and I'm really confused by this, why this would be on the computer as well. But if you go into, is it called Windows? They keep changing the name of the tool. Windows Security, yeah. So in Windows 10 version 1903, it's called Windows Security. It's had other names like Windows Defender, something. Buried deep within this tool, if you go into Device Performance and Health, you'll see something called Fresh Start. And Fresh Start is basically the refresh version of Reset This PC. In other words, it's not going to delete any of your data, hopefully, but it will reinstall whatever version of Windows you have on the disk. Outside of Windows 10, there's also something called Refresh Windows. And what that will do is basically the same thing I just described, destructively or non-destructively, but you download it from the web, and it will be whatever the latest version is of Windows 10. And so if the version on your disk is 1809 and the latest version out in the world is 1903, you're going to get 1903. So why would there be, well, there's three. I've listed the three most. There's actually more than that, but let's just stick with those three. Why would you do these things? When you use, as my voice cracks because I'm finally hitting puberty, when you use Fresh Start or Reset This PC, you're using an image that is on the PC, like I said. And that image is not just from Microsoft. It also could be tailored, or almost certainly will be, tailored by your PC maker. And that what that means is whatever utilities and drivers and other applications that your PC crapware, like McAfee, whatever, if you use the versions that are on the PC, you're going to get those back. So the reason you would go to the web and use Refresh Windows instead is because that version is just a clean version of Windows 10. So it has, Windows 10 has some crap in it too, but it doesn't have your PC Maker utilities. That was the last one I tried, and that's why today I downloaded the HP Support Tools, or whatever it's called, HP Support Assistant, which is the HP utility to download drivers and things like that. I tried to go with just a clean version of Windows, hoping that would help it, but it didn't. But there's your stuff. And the thing that's interesting about this is there's a fourth one coming. So I think it's in Windows 10 20H1, Microsoft is going to include a cloud-based way to restore your PC from the Windows recovery environment. And if you're familiar with how that works in the Mac, you know that you can boot your Mac into your firmware, connect to your wireless network, and then download whatever version of macOS came with the computer when you bought it. I don't know exactly how the Windows Microsoft version is going to work, but I suspect it will be just another way to use Refresh Windows, and you're going to get the latest version of Windows, not the version that came on your PC, but similar similar in concept. And I just wanted to add too, because I review a lot of computers, and then I do this every single time I bring up a computer, but I also did it this past weekend to this computer because it's the one I use every day. In the book that I wrote about Windows 10, I documented the things you do after you install Windows to, configure it the way you want, et cetera, et cetera. So that's in the Windows 10 field guide, but I also have an article version of it on the website, which is called what, Paul? It's called, I don't know why it's not clicking. It doesn't matter what it's called. But if you Google for "this is how I configure Windows 10," I think is the name of it, on Thurrott.com, you'll find that article. So you'll be able to get that one way or the other.
Well, excellent. I hope that you can figure out the situation there for your computer. Nice wordplay there. That was good.
Next one. I will never figure it out, but I will get past this one way or the other, I think is how it's going to go down.
We're all rooting for you.
Thanks. And then as far as the app pick goes, over the past, I think 7 days or so, Stardock has updated 2 of their key Windows 10 utilities to support the Windows 10 dark mode, which is pretty cool. I don't know that either one of them has been substantially updated otherwise, although neither one of them really needs it. Those 2 tools are Start 10, which is their start menu replacement, and Groupie, which is their sets alternative, right? That feature of Windows 10 that Microsoft ended up not implementing. So the start menu replacement, why would you use this? Either you're familiar with and want to use the Windows 7 style start menu, or you just don't like the Windows 10 start menu and you want something that still has that kind of modern look but doesn't have all the tile stuff. You can configure that the way you want. So it's kind of a cool little utility. And then Groupie is a way to add tabs to any application window. And so you could bring up like a Visual Studio window and then have other tabs in there for other apps that you're using with that. Or you could bring up different Office applications all in tabs in the same window, that kind of thing. So that was a feature Microsoft was intending to put in Windows 10, and then they canceled it, and you can get it now from Stardock.
That's pretty cool.
And it's cheap. I think it's $5 or $10. It's not expensive.
All right. Now, Enterprise pick of the week.
Yes, I have as my pick Azure Active Directory Basic. And the reason it's the pick is it's going away. So if you
a lot of going away this week.
A lot of going away. Items. This actually technically already has gone away. I guess as of July 1, which is the start of Microsoft's new fiscal year, they started pulling references and links to Azure Active Directory Basic, which is one of 4 different editions of Azure Active Directory. It was the one they introduced in 2014. It costs like $1 per user per month. It's not the lowest tier, which is the free tier, which is still going to continue. But what's confusing here, also a theme on the show. What's confusing here is it's still on the pricing page and listed as if Microsoft is selling it, but they are not. And the reason they say they're phasing it out is it was a, quote, low volume SKU, meaning nobody used it. I've heard from quite a few people who, of course, whenever you write something and say no one was using it, all the people who use it are pinging you saying, I use this one. They're just saying it was confusing to people because it was low volume and didn't have all the features that people wanted. But it is going away. They're taking it off the pricing page sometime soon. If you are an existing customer, you will be able to continue to use it and even renew it in the future. But you can't if you use it under a Microsoft Open license.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and speaking of licensing, I want to point again. I talked about this last week a little bit, but I want to point this out again. Microsoft's making some big changes to what they call outsourcing licensing as of October 1st. If you're a customer, an enterprise customer who runs Windows Server or SQL Server on either AWS or Google Cloud, and you're doing it using a dedicated host, which is how many people do it as a loophole to kind of get around pricing issues, you're going to have to rethink how you're doing this. Things are going to change October 1st. And I mentioned this just kind of in passing last week, but I then tried to dive into the licensing sites this week and make sense of it all. And I did a terrible job, but I still would refer you to my article because it has a lot of links that you perhaps can read and try to figure out. lots of fun terms like BYOL, bring your own license, software assurance.
Awesome.
Like you just get ready to have a lot of fun, like digging through this stuff.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I heard a little chuckle from Paul there when you said digging into licenses.
Bring your own license.
Yeah.
That's another, you know, that's one of those, if we had the cocktails, we'd have to drink when we heard that term.
Okay,
yeah, we would.
I like that.
Azure Hybrid Benefit, another
You're
one.
like, everyone drink.
Yeah.
Is there thin client? Was that a thing? So I think I saw that earlier. Someone said drink when they say thin client.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, so it's a huge change, especially is going to have big impacts if you're a Windows Server or Windows client user who runs these things in non-Azure clouds. So go look at what I wrote. I'm not saying I did a great job. It's so confusing, but at least you'll have some links to try to decipher it yourself from my article.
The clouds. We have a codename pick of the week. This is exciting to me because I don't know. I like codenames. So tell us about O'Hare.
Yeah. So every week we try to do a codename pick of the week, and sometimes we pick codenames from the vault, as we say, which is the past. Paul suggested today's codename because he's been digging around in some old files talking about programming. And he said, what about O'Hare? So I remember
That is how he
O'Hare.
sounds. Wow, you got it right on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. A little
O'Hare
like Kermit the
was
Frog,
the...
kind of.
Hey, Mary Jo.
Hey, Mary Jo, what
O'Hare.
about O'Hare?
What
And
about
my arms are
O'Hare?
all like-
O'Hare was the codename for IE, Internet Explorer 1.0, which was introduced when they introduced Windows 95, which was codenamed Chicago. Why was it called O'Hare? Because it could get you to any destination from Chicago. Get it?
Oh, clever. I see what they did there.
That's when
The
codenames used to be
last-
fun
the
at
last great
Microsoft.
codename.
Then now we don't get as many fun codenames.
What do they call them now? Like C.E264?
Yeah, like 19H1, 19H2. But they are using things like vibranium and vanadium. So, yeah.
Okay, so some fun things.
Some fun things are still
I miss
around.
the city code names.
Yeah, me too.
And
The city code names are great.
Cairo, Chicago, Detroit, Memphis,
Yeah.
Boston.
Nashville.
Yep,
Oh, Nashville. Well, another fun thing is the beer pick of the week. Do we actually get these beers whenever we talk about them?
Yeah,
That
we
would
didn't know
be
you were
nice.
coming, so
Gotcha. See, I'll
Yeah.
keep
I know.
I'll keep you apprised a little bit earlier so the mail can
Okay.
get here.
Definitely. So this week's beer pick of the week is from Foley Brothers Brewing. And no, I am not an owner, despite the name,
man.
sadly. They make something called Longbeards Oatmeal Stout, which is a kind of like an English style stout. So definitely not hoppy, kind of mild, easy drinking stout. And it's called Oatmeal Stout because it's brewed with a tiny bit of oatmeal. Obviously a dark beer, but even though it's summer, I had a taste of this recently and it wasn't one of those really knock you over the head heavy stouts. So I could see drinking this in the summer. It was very refreshing, if you can say that about a stout.
Yeah,
It's from
a refreshing stout.
Yeah, from Vermont. I've been seeing it
a
around in
refreshing
cans.
glass of milk on a hot summer day.
No, it was very good. Like sometimes you're just, I should never admit this. Sometimes you get sick of IPAs and Pilsners and you want something.
Finally.
Not usually though. I'll be right back on my IPA kick. Micah doesn't know that. I drink IPAs like nobody's business and Paul hates them.
I don't like IPAs either.
What?
Oh, because
Yeah.
you have taste buds.
Oh, Mansky.
Yeah.
Let me just,
really
I'm
does.
just going to go here now.
Yeah, he can't abide the IPAs at all. He cannot.
And abide the IPA. I
Yeah,
like
exactly.
that. That's a great word for that. Well, is there anything else that we want to add, or have we reached the end of an episode of Windows Weekly?
I think we've done
I
it.
think we made it. We made it to the end.
Wow. Well, just like all those other things that are going away, we are going away for this week, just this week. But there will be more in the future. I believe Leo will be back next week. He said Jason was going to be on with you today, so I'm just going to say he's going to be on with you. And if it's not
Well,
him,
now that we know he's a liar.
yes, now that we know
Yeah.
he's a
Yes.
liar, it's
Yep.
it's either going to be Leo Laporte next week or the Easter Bunny, one of the two.
Nice.
So it'll be a surprise to you folks, but I have to tell you, I had a really great time today hanging out.
Yeah, it was
thanks.
nice
It was
to meet you.
great
Thank you for
meeting you
doing it.
virtually.
Yes, and I'm serious. We're going to come up with a cocktail for Patch Tuesday.
For Tuesday,
I like it.
We'll figure it out.
I think we should do that as a pick of the week also. Patch Tuesday, once a month. Patch Tuesday cocktail of the week.
Oh, man.
Patch Tuesday is, that's a good name for a cocktail, too.
It is, isn't it?
is.
I'll have the Patch Tuesday. Just don't try that at your local place because they're going to look at you like you're silly. But
Exactly.
My wife is kind of a mixologist. I'll get her going on this.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
And you can tweet it. I'm serious. And I'll make it. We'll do it on the Twit is really digging into Instagram lately, so they'd love to have that for the Instagram. Oh man, I'm excited. So I'm looking forward to a Patch Tuesday cocktail at some point with you all and listening to the speaker, the Harman-Kardon speaker. But Mary Jo Foley, all about Microsoft.com. Thank you for being here this week.
Thank you.
As every week. Except when the Easter Bunny's on. And Paul Thurrott of Thurrott.com, as well as leanpub.com. Thank you.
Thank you.
Folks, if you want to watch live, like some of us, some are out there doing right now, you can head to twit.tv/live. That's going to let you check out the video as we are chit-chatting across the United States. And if you are doing that, head to irc.twit.tv so you can be in the chat where they are suggesting some excellent titles for this episode of Windows Weekly. You can also, of course, check us out afterward on YouTube, where the show publishes, as well as twit.tv/WW. That'll have links to the podcast in all of its forms, be it video or audio. So no matter where you are and when you are, you can catch Windows Weekly and all the fun that we're having, including those wonderful tips at the end. Thanks so much for tuning in. See you next time on Windows Weekly.